Your blood cells are just like Americans. We love our flags. We've got a flag for our country, we've got a flag for our favorite sports team, our states. We're just obsessed with them. And your red blood cells are no different. But we get to decide which flags that we fly. But what determines which flags that these blood cells will fly? Well, let's get right into it. Hey everybody, Organized Biology here, where we make difficult biology concepts simple. And today we're talking about codominance, specifically in human blood groups. So we're going to be looking at our little red blood cells. You've got trillions of these coursing through your bloodstream right now. And we're looking at a specific gene in those blood cells called the ABO gene. And these genes are going to code for different flags on these red blood cells. Now in your class, your teacher's likely teaching you that genes are going to code for specific traits. So the trait I'm talking about in this video is going to be these flags. Now, here's where it gets a little interesting. This ABO gene can code for 3 possibilities of flags that we're going to hold on the outside of your red blood cells. So let me give those variations to you now. And just a little hint, these variations also have a cool vocabulary term. These variations are also called alleles. So that's just a variation of the gene. So there are 3 types, remember, in the blood cells. One variation of this ABO flag gene is going to be little I. Now, little I is cute, but it is very boring because little I actually codes for no flag. So this is somebody who has no identity and has no flag that they would like to fly if they have the little I. That rhymed. Wow, I'm like a poet. But the next variation is going to be a little different, and this is where the codominance aspect comes in. We're going to have a big I, big A. That's just the way we show this variation. Now, if you have this big I, big A, we are going to code for a flag that will look like this. So we'll have this little A flag if you have this variation of the gene. Now, furthermore, there's one last one, and it's going to be big I, big B. And you can probably predict if you have the big I, big B, it's going to code for a flag with a B on it. We'll make it a little triangle just to make it a little different. So your blood cells have kind of 3 options. They can make no flag, a flag, or a B flag. However, here's where you need to have the background in genetics. In your cells, you have 2 variations of every gene. That's because you received 1 variation from mom, 1 variation from dad. So in other words, every single cell of these has 2 of these guys, but it depends on which types they have. So for example, you could have a type little I, little I. Seeing as you got this little I from mom and got this little I from dad, therefore, what will your blood cell look like? Very boring. It won't have any flag because both of these variations or alleles code for no flag. But what if you had the following? What if you had this first thing called a genotype where you have a big I, big A, and a little I? Well, in that case, you've got this dominant allele here that codes for this big A flag, so your blood cell would look like this. Awesome. But what if you had this genotype where you had both big IA, big IA? Same would hold true. You would just have those A flags. But then let's hop over here. Let's say you have these 2 options of what's called genotypes, where you have a big I, big B, and a little I, and a big I, big B, and another big I, big B. You got the same thing for both parents. What would this blood cell look like? Well, obviously you guys are smart. You would have those B flags on this blood cell. But Mr. Jackson, you haven't mentioned a darn thing about codominance, where 2 alleles are fully shown up in the cell's traits. Well, here's where the last blood cell comes in. Let's say, for example, from mom, you received this allele, where you have a big I, big A. And then from your dad, you received a big I, big B. Well, in this case, that codes for the A flags, and that codes for the B flags. So now you've got a packed full blood cell. It's got a lot of flags. It must be very passionate about these 2 things, where it's got both an A flag and a B flag that are both fully expressing themselves in the blood cell. That is what we call codominance. Now you need to hop to this video next to learn about why these blood types are so important. See you over there.